How's it going, Starseekers? My name's Luke and welcome back to the channel for another indie game review, this time for a game called Squad Killer. It's a challenging 8-bit arcade game where you play as a walking pillow who's rocking a snazzy bandana with a visor stitched into it and have to blast your way through randomly generated levels as you aim to take down all of the game's bosses. But the simple gameplay mechanics sound way easier than they actually are, and if you're in the market for a spot of tough retro arcade action, then Squad Killer might have just what you're looking for. So let's get into this review and take a look at the game, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Switch related content and game reviews. So Squad Killer released about a month ago and I've been meaning to get around to reviewing it for a while. It's currently available on the UK Switch eShop where it's priced at £4.49, the US eShop for $4.99, and you can also grab it on PlayStation or Xbox. Now hitting the main menu, Squad Killer immediately gave off those old school NES and Atari vibes with its limited colour palette, simple visuals and a funky 8-bit tune playing in the background. The game is clearly influenced by classic arcade titles on these platforms, and like many of them it has a very simple premise to its gameplay, so we don't really have any kind of storyline to talk about with this one. Now Squad Killer has 3 game modes available, the first of these being main mode where your objective is to simply work your way through all 17 of its levels, collecting power-ups and taking down bosses as you go. We also have a classic boss rush mode where you have to take on all 6 of the bosses one after another without any power-ups, and finally we have a mode called Stacked Deck where you start with 7 random power-ups and once more have to work your way through 17 levels. Boss Rush and Stacked Deck modes are both locked to begin with, and you've got to complete main mode in order to unlock them, but I'm going to admit right now that the game is pretty nails, and me being pretty shy, I didn't actually manage to achieve this, but the general gameplay mechanics remain the same across all modes. Getting into main mode then, each time you begin a new game you'll start on a randomly selected stage layout, and the order in which you play through these layouts changes every game, which keeps you on your toes and stops things feeling too repetitive. Upon starting a stage you'll get a brief moment to position yourself in a suitable location before the action begins, with enemies busting the way in through the windows located in set locations on the stage. Now the control scheme for Squad Killer is pretty simple, and we do get a nice little diagram in the controls menu to explain them to us, though there are a few things left out of this which do warrant a little bit more of an explanation. We move our character with the left thumbstick or D-pad, jump with the ZR or B button, and shoot with the Y button, but we're only actually able to shoot either left or right, which I did feel was a little restricting, as you'll often have enemies flying around above you and have to chase them around the screen to take them down. Now you're also able to toss grenades with the R button, which explode after a few seconds, killing enemies in an area, and to start with you're only able to carry a single grenade, but you're able to increase this limit with a specific perk, and additional grenades can be picked up from defeated enemies. The final 2 control features are undoubtedly the most important ones in the game, and you're going to need to master these in order to survive even a couple of levels. By hitting the X button you're able to flip tables in levels, which in a similar fashion to Enter the Gungeon act as barriers blocking enemy projectiles, but it's worth noting that they also block your own projectiles as well. Our final and most important ability is the knee slide, performed by hitting ZL, and this allows you to dodge through both enemy projectiles and enemies themselves, which proves to be invaluable when the bullets start flying and the chaos begins. So as I said before, the general gameplay loop in Squad Killer is pretty simple. You work your way through each level, killing enemies whilst avoiding being killed yourself, and in order to progress on to the next level you simply have to take out every enemy on the screen. Now there's some decent variety to the game's enemies, who each have their own movement and projectile patterns, with some enemies wandering back and forth along platforms whilst others bounce their way around the screen, and this combination of walking and flying enemies means the beginning of levels often feel very hectic, as there's a lot to keep your eye on, and you're going to have to do plenty of knee sliding until you manage to take a few of them out. Now enemies that you kill will drop one of 3 items, the first of these being extra grenade pickups, the second health pickups which recover 1 bar of your health seen in the top left corner, and finally each enemy drops a few coins which can be spent every 2 or 3 levels to buy perks. As with most things in the game, the perks that are on sale are selected at random each run, and these have a wide range of effects which include the usual increases to your health, grenade supply, fire rate and projectile damage, as well as some more interesting perks which allow you to shoot through flipped tables, transform your grenades into cluster grenades or cause enemies to explode when they die. Overall, I thought there was some decent variety to the perks, though like gameplay they were kept relatively simple, but one big issue that I encountered whilst playing was with coins and other pickups getting stuck in walls after I killed enemies, and this meant that I was actually unable to collect them a lot of the time, so I frequently lacked the coinage to buy certain perks. Now every few levels you'll face off against one of the game's 6 bosses, which is also selected at random. These bosses all have their own unique attack cycles, which often require you to utilise the knee slide ability in some way, and for the most part I found that they were all pretty well done. However, several of the bosses spend a lot of the time up and out of reach, which did have the effect of dragging the fights out, making them more frustrating than fun, and again this problem could have been solved by simply allowing players to shoot upwards. While I found these boss fights still offered a decent challenge, compared with the game's standard levels, the boss fights are a lot more structured, which actually resulted in them being the easiest element of the game. Now when you first start playing Squad Killer, don't be surprised at all if you last about 2 levels before seeing the game over screen, as the game is extremely tough and unforgiving, and it'll likely take you a good few tries before you even get to see the game's first boss. My main criticism about Squad Killer is the fact that there doesn't actually appear to be any progression in difficulty, so it's basically hard mode all the way, and this difficulty factor stems from several of its core gameplay mechanics. Firstly, the enemies that you face in each stage are randomly selected, which combined with the random level selection means it's pot luck whether you actually get an easy start or the game kicks your ass right away. The levels themselves are all pretty small with windows spread throughout them, so you're never actually able to find a safe location to prepare for enemies, and you just have to make split decisions the second that the windows break and you see what you're up against. Finally, the movement of flying enemies is very unpredictable, with them randomly changing direction at a moment's notice instead of just bouncing off surfaces at the angles that you'd expect. And the game's walking enemies instantly turn and fire up on you as soon as you come into line with them, which can make them pretty frustrating to actually take down. Now aside from these issues, the only other problem that I encountered was the way in which ladders operate, as you can't just jump off them to avoid incoming fire and instead have to move off to the side of them to drop out of the way, which isn't always possible. So overall, Squad Killer is a fun little title, and I thought the game's solo developer Chris did a good job with the game. While it is a pretty challenging game and can be frustrating at times, once you get to grips with things and get used to using that knee slide and utilising your grenades, progression does become easier and you'll find you're able to make it further into the game with each consecutive attempt. Visually, while Squad Killer's not going to wow you, I quite liked the simple art and sprite work and I thought it fit well with the gameplay, and on the audio side it wasn't bad either, with a simple set of sound effects and an 8-bit soundtrack which fit the game's theme. But like a lot of NES tunes, it does eventually get a bit repetitive and irritating to the point where you may want to head into the options and mute it. Now when it comes to my own personal rating, I'm going to be giving Squad Killer 3 out of 5 stars. If you're up for a bit of a challenge and enjoy classic arcade games, then Squad Killer is well worth checking out and it fits nicely as a little time filler title. And that about wraps up this review of Squad Killer on the Nintendo Switch. Make sure to hit that like button if it helped you out, let me know your thoughts and opinions on it in the comments section below, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel to be notified of new Switch game reviews and content I upload every few days. For now though, I just want to thank you all once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.